The contractions hit like waves crashing against jagged rocks, each one more powerful than the last, threatening to pull Mia under. She gripped the hospital bed rail, knuckles white, a scream building in her throat. The midwife's voice seemed to come from somewhere far away. "You're doing great, Mia. 9 centimeters. Almost there." Mia's phone lit up on the side table. Another message from Ellie. "Any word from Nate?" Mia closed her eyes as tears streamed down her face. She remembered the call she'd received just 6 hours ago as she lay in this same bed, her water having broken unexpectedly at 38 weeks. "Hey, it's me," Nate had said, the sounds of laughter and clinking glasses in the background. "Mom wants to know how you're feeling." "Nate," she'd managed through gritted teeth. "My water broke. I'm at Memorial. The baby's coming." There had been a pause, the background noise continuing. "Today? It's not supposed to be for 2 more weeks." "That's not how this works," she'd said. "You need to come now." Another pause. Longer this time. She could hear his mother's voice asking what was wrong. "I can't just leave, Mia. We're celebrating Dad's retirement. The whole family's here." In Cabo. The contraction hit now, tearing through her body like lightning, and Mia let out a guttural cry that echoed through the delivery room. The midwife moved quickly to her side, placing a cool cloth on her forehead. "Where's your husband?" she asked gently. Mia opened her eyes, fresh tears spilling over. 5,000 miles away, she whispered. "On a beach in Mexico with his parents." 3 months earlier, Mia Delaney ran her hand over the swell of her stomach as she stared at the calendar on the refrigerator. Red ink circled May 15th, her due date, still 7 weeks away. Below it, in Nate's precise handwriting, was another notation. "Cabo, May 1 date, Dad's retirement." "We need to talk about this," she said, not turning around as she heard Nate enter the kitchen. "About what?" He opened the refrigerator, the cool air hitting her back as he reached around her for a beer. "Your parents' trip. The one that's 2 weeks before our baby is supposed to be born." Nate sighed, the sound so familiar it made her teeth clench. It was the sound he made whenever she brought up anything related to his family, a prelude to the inevitable defense. "It's not just a trip, Mia. It's Dad's retirement celebration. After 40 years at the firm, the whole family will be there." Mia turned, one hand on her lower back to support the weight that seemed to grow heavier by the day. "And what if the baby comes early?" "First babies often do." Nate took a long pull from his beer. His blue eyes, the same ones she'd fallen for 6 years ago, regarding her with a mixture of exasperation and dismissal. "It won't. Dr. Hadley said everything looks perfect. Right on schedule." "That's not a guarantee," she said, her voice rising slightly. "What happens if I go into labor while you're in another country?" "Then you call me, and I get on the first flight back." He said it so matter-of-factly, as if missing the birth of their first child was a minor inconvenience, like missing a dinner reservation. "From Cabo?" "That's at least 7 hours if everything goes perfectly. Mia." He set his beer down and placed his hands on her shoulders. She could smell his cologne, sandalwood and something citrusy, the same one his father wore. "You're overthinking this. The baby will come when it's supposed to, which is May 15th. We'll be back a full week before that. Besides, your mom can stay with you that week if you're worried." "My mother lives in Seattle," she reminded him, "and she can't just drop everything to come babysit me because you want to go on vacation." "It's not a vacation." His voice hardened. "It's my father's retirement, a once-in-a-lifetime event." "So is the birth of your child," she said quietly. Something flickered across his face. Uncertainty. Maybe even guilt. Before it was replaced by the determined expression she knew so well. Nathan Delaney, junior partner at his father's law firm, was not a man accustomed to losing arguments. "I've already promised my parents," he said with finality. "Dad's counting on the whole family being there. I can't back out now." "Can't? Or won't?" Mia asked, though she already knew the answer. Nate didn't respond. Instead, he picked up his beer and walked out of the kitchen, conversation over. Mia turned back to the calendar, her hand moving in slow circles over her rounded belly as the baby kicked, as if sensing her distress. She thought about the man she'd married 4 years ago, charming, ambitious, devoted. The man who'd swept her off her feet during their final year of college, who'd promised her the world. She'd known about his close relationship with his parents, particularly his father, Richard. The legendary Richard Delaney, whose law practice was a dynasty in their city, who had mapped out Nate's entire life before he was born. What she hadn't realized was that in the Delaney family hierarchy, she would always rank below Richard and Eleanor Delaney's expectations. Her phone buzzed with a text. Ellie, her best friend since childhood. Dinner tomorrow? Need to hear about the nursery progress. Mia smiled, momentarily lifted from her worry. At least she had Ellie, while her own family was scattered. Mother in Seattle, father remarried and living in Phoenix. Brother stationed overseas with the military. Ellie had been her rock through everything. The whirlwind romance with Nate, the lavish wedding that Eleanor had largely orchestrated, and now this pregnancy, which had been more difficult than Mia had ever anticipated. Yes, please, she texted back. Need to vent about Cabo trip. Still happening. The response was immediate. That man needs his head examined. I'll bring wine for me, ice cream for you. The next evening, Mia sat across from Ellie at their favorite Italian restaurant, picking at her pasta while Ellie sipped her red wine, her dark eyes narrowing as Mia recounted the previous night's conversation. So he's still planning to go? Ellie asked, her voice tight with disapproval. Tickets are booked. Eleanor has the whole week planned. Golf for the men, spa days for the women, a big celebration dinner on the final night. And you're supposed to what? Sit at home and hope you don't go into labor? Mia shrugged, twirling pasta around her fork without eating it. Nate says I can come too, but the doctor doesn't want me flying after 36 weeks. Not that I'd want to be in Cabo 9 months pregnant anyway. Ellie set her wine glass down with more force than necessary. This is ridiculous, Mia. Has he always been this selfish? The question hung between them. Had he? Mia thought back over their relationship. Nate had always prioritized his family, certainly. Every holiday spent with his parents. Every major decision run by them first. But selfish? She'd always seen it as loyalty, as respect for the people who had given him everything. But now, with their own child about to enter the world, she was beginning to see it differently. His father has a lot of influence over him, she said finally. A weak defense she didn't entirely believe. His father isn't the one who got you pregnant, Ellie retorted. What does Dr. Hadley say? Is there any actual risk of early labor? She says everything looks normal, but first babies are unpredictable. I could go early, I could go late. There's no way to know. And Nate's willing to gamble on that? Mia didn't answer, which was answer enough. Later that night, as she lay in bed listening to Nate shower, Mia opened her laptop and began researching. Flight times from Cabo San Lucas to home, the probability of first babies arriving early, warning signs of labor. By the time Nate slipped into bed beside her, smelling of mint toothpaste and expensive shower gel, she had armed herself with facts. The average first baby comes 5 days before the due date, she said without preamble, and 20% come more than 2 weeks early. Nate sighed, reaching to turn off his bedside lamp. Mia, can we not do this tonight? If I go into labor while you're away, even if you got the first flight out, best case scenario is you'd miss the birth. Worst case, there could be complications, decisions that need to be made. He turned to face her, his expression a mixture of frustration and weariness. What do you want me to do? Tell my father I'm missing his retirement celebration? The man who paid for my education, who gave me my career? I want you to tell him that your wife and child come first, Mia said, her voice breaking. Just this once. Something in Nate's face softened. He reached out to touch her cheek, wiping away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. Hey, he said gently. It's going to be fine. The baby will come when it's supposed to, and I'll be here. But if it makes you feel better, I'll talk to Dad about maybe shifting the dates a bit. It was a concession, however small. Mia nodded, not entirely satisfied but too exhausted to argue further. The next morning, she awoke to find Nate already dressed for work, sitting on the edge of the bed with a troubled expression. "I spoke to Dad," he said when he noticed she was awake. Mia pushed herself up to sitting, hope flaring briefly. "And? The resort is fully booked before and after our dates. We can't move it." He paused, rubbing the back of his neck. "And Mom reminded me that Aunt Susan and Uncle Pete have already arranged time off work, and Cousin Sarah is coming from London." The hope died as quickly as it had risen. "So nothing changes. Mia, It's fine," she cut him off, swinging her legs over the side of the bed with effort. "I get it. The almighty Delaney family calendar can't be adjusted." "That's not fair," Nate said, rising to his feet. "This is important to my father, to my whole family. And what am I? What's our baby? Aren't we your family too?" The question lingered in the air between them, heavy and unanswered. Nate checked his watch, the Rolex his father had given him when he made junior partner. "I have to get to court," he said, leaning down to kiss her forehead. She turned her face away. "We'll talk more tonight, okay?" But they didn't talk more that night, or the night after. The subject of the Cabo trip became a landmine in their relationship, carefully avoided. As April progressed and Mia's due date grew closer, the tension in their home thickened until it felt like a physical presence, a third party in their marriage. At her 36-week appointment, Dr. Hadley examined her with practiced hands, then smiled reassuringly. "Everything looks perfect, Mia. Baby's head is down, good position. How are you feeling?" "Tired," Mia admitted. "Heavy and—" She hesitated, unsure how much to share with her doctor about her personal life. Dr. Hadley, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense manner, waited patiently. "My husband is going out of town soon," Mia finally said. "For his father's retirement?" "In Mexico," the doctor's eyebrows rose slightly. "When is this trip?" "May 1st to 8th. And your due date is the 15th? When Mia nodded, Dr. Hadley made a non-committal sound. "Well, most first babies don't come early, but it's not something I'd recommend, being out of the country so close to the due date. He says he can be on the first flight back if anything happens." Dr. Hadley's expression remained neutral, professional. "Just make sure you have someone local who can be with you if labor begins. A friend, family member, someone you trust." Mia thought of Ellie, who had already promised to be on call 24/7 during Nate's absence. "I do," she said, and Dr. Hadley patted her hand. "Then try not to worry too much. Stress isn't good for you or the baby." But as the date of Nate's departure approached, Mia found it impossible not to worry. She threw herself into preparing the nursery, a soft green room with a white crib and a rocking chair by the window. She attended her prenatal yoga classes, took long baths, and tried to focus on the miracle growing inside her, rather than the fear that she might face labor alone. The night before Nate was set to leave, she made his favorite dinner, steak with roasted potatoes and asparagus, a peace offering of sorts. They ate in relative silence, the only sound the clink of cutlery against plates and the occasional rumble of thunder outside, a spring storm brewing. "I've made a list," Mia said as they finished eating, "of who to call if anything happens while you're gone. Ellie, obviously, my doctor. The hospital." Nate reached across the table to take her hand. "Nothing's gonna happen. But I appreciate you being so understanding about this trip." Understanding? Was that what he thought this was? Mia bit back the retort that rose to her lips. There was no point in reigniting the argument now, not when he was leaving in the morning. "Just promise me you'll keep your phone on," she said instead. "All the time." "Of course," he assured her. "And I'll call you every morning and night. It's only a week, Mia. Then I'll be back, and we'll have almost 2 full weeks before the baby comes." She nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Only a week. 7 days. 168 hours during which their child could decide to enter the world, and Nate would be drinking margaritas on a beach with his parents. Later, as they lay in bed, Nate's arm draped over her swollen belly, she felt the baby kick, a strong, determined movement. Nate felt it too and laughed softly. "Already taking after your old man," he murmured. "A fighter." Mia said nothing, but in the darkness, she allowed herself to cry silently, tears sliding down her temples and into her hair. May 3rd dawned bright and clear, a perfect spring day. Mia woke early, her back aching more than usual. She shifted uncomfortably in bed, then rose with effort to use the bathroom for what felt like the 100th time that night. As she washed her hands, she caught her reflection in the mirror, face puffy with sleep and late pregnancy, dark circles under her eyes. Nate had been gone for 2 days, and despite his twice-daily calls, she felt more alone than she had in years. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Ellie? Breakfast? I can bring bagels. Mia smiled, grateful for her friend's unwavering support. Yes, please. Extra cream cheese. While waiting for Ellie, Mia tried to make herself presentable, washing her face and pulling her hair into a ponytail. She was wearing one of Nate's old t-shirts, the only thing comfortable to sleep in these days, and a pair of maternity leggings. When the doorbell rang, she made her way carefully down the stairs, one hand on the railing, the other supporting her lower back. Ellie stood on the porch with a bag from their favorite bakery and a tray of coffee. One regular latte for me, one decaf for you, she announced, following Mia into the kitchen. You're a lifesaver, Mia said, sinking into a chair at the kitchen table. How are you feeling today? Ellie asked, setting out bagels and containers of cream cheese. Like I swallowed a bowling ball, Mia admitted. My back is killing me. Ellie's eyes narrowed. Back pain? Since when? Since I hit the size of a small planet, Mia joked. But Ellie didn't smile. What kind of back pain? Constant or coming and going? Mia paused, a half-spread bagel in her hand. Kind of. Waves, I guess. Why? Because back pain can be a sign of labor, Ellie said, setting down her coffee. Especially if it comes and goes. It's not labor, Mia insisted. I'm barely 37 weeks. And there's no contractions, no water breaking. Some women feel labor as back pain first, Ellie persisted. My sister did. Well, I'm not your sister, Mia said, more sharply than she intended. Then softer. Sorry, I can't be in labor, not now. Not with Nate gone. Ellie reached across the table to squeeze her hand. Have you heard from him today? He called last night. They were all going out on Richard's friend's yacht. Mia couldn't keep the bitterness from her voice. He sent pictures. Everyone looked like they were having a great time. Of course they were, Ellie muttered, then changing the subject. What's on your agenda today? Prenatal yoga at 11, then I thought I'd finish organizing the baby clothes. Dr. Hadley says I should stay active but not overdo it. Want company? I'm free all day. Mia felt a rush of affection for her friend. Don't you have better things to do than watch a whale attempt downward dog? Absolutely not, Ellie said firmly. Besides, someone needs to be there in case you roll over and can't get up. They were still laughing when Mia felt it, a tightening across her abdomen, different from the Braxton Hicks contractions she'd been experiencing for weeks. This was stronger, more purposeful. She inhaled sharply, her hand going to her stomach. Ellie's laughter died. Mia, what is it? Nothing, Mia said automatically. Just the baby moving. But it wasn't the baby moving. And as the morning progressed, and she felt the sensation twice more, Mia began to worry that Ellie might be right. At the yoga studio, she moved through the gentle poses with caution, hyper-aware of every twinge and pull in her body. The instructor, a serene woman named Dawn who specialized in prenatal classes, noticed her distraction. Remember to breathe, Mia, she said softly, adjusting Mia's position slightly. Let your body be your guide today. Halfway through the class, as Mia was attempting a modified warrior pose, she felt it again. Stronger this time. A band of pressure that wrapped around from her back to her front. She gasped, dropping out of the pose. Dawn was at her side immediately. What are you feeling? I don't know, Mia admitted, fear making her voice shake. Pain in my back, and then it moves around to the front. The instructor exchanged a glance with Ellie, who had positioned her mat next to Mia's. How far apart are these sensations? Dawn asked calmly. I don't know. I haven't been timing them. Let's start now, Dawn suggested, and maybe skip the rest of class, just to be safe. In the changing room, Mia sat on a bench while Ellie gathered their things. When another wave of discomfort hit, Ellie checked her watch. That's about 20 minutes from the last one, she said. Mia, I really think we should call your doctor. It's probably just Braxton Hicks, Mia insisted, though she was less convinced now. False labor. Then Dr. Hadley will tell us that, and we can go home. But if it's not... Reluctantly, Mia agreed, and Ellie made the call. After describing Mia's symptoms, she handed the phone over. Mia, Dr. Hadley's voice was calm but serious. I think you should come in to be checked. It might be nothing, but with the regular contractions and back pain, we want to be sure. But I'm only 37 weeks, Mia protested weakly. 37 weeks is considered full term, the doctor reminded her. If this is labor, there's no medical reason to stop it. The baby would be fine. Fine for the baby, perhaps. But not for Mia, not with Nate thousands of miles away, celebrating with his family while she faced the most significant moment of her life alone. At the hospital, Dr. Hadley examined her and confirmed what Mia had been dreading. You're in early labor, she said gently. 3 centimeters dilated already. But my water hasn't broken, Mia said, grasping at straws. It doesn't always break on its own. Sometimes we have to do it, the doctor explained. But you're definitely in labor, Mia. This baby is coming, probably within the next 24 hours. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. 24 hours. Even if Nate left immediately, even if he got the first flight out. I need to call my husband, she said, reaching for her phone with trembling hands. Dr. Hadley nodded. I'll give you some privacy. The nurse will be in to get you settled in a delivery room. As the doctor left, Ellie squeezed Mia's shoulder. Do you want me to step out too? Mia shook her head. Stay, please. She dialed Nate's number, her heart pounding. It rang once, twice, 3 times, then went to voicemail. She tried again. Same result. He's not answering, she said, panic rising in her throat. Try texting, Ellie suggested. And maybe call the hotel? Mia sent a text in labor. At hospital. Call me ASAP. Then searched through her emails for the resort information Nate had forwarded to her. She called the main number and asked to be connected to Nate's room. I'm sorry, Mr. Delaney checked out this morning, the receptionist informed her. Checked out? That's not possible. He's supposed to be there until the 8th. One moment, let me check. There was a pause, the sound of typing. Yes, the entire Delaney party checked out early this morning. They were catching the yacht to Isla Espiritu Santo. The yacht? Mia repeated, her mind struggling to process this information. Yes, ma'am. Mr. Richard Delaney arranged a 3-day yacht excursion as part of their stay. They won't be back until the 6th. Mia thanked the receptionist mechanically and hung up, her mind reeling. What is it? Ellie asked, alarmed by Mia's expression. They're on a yacht, Mia said, her voice hollow. A 3-day excursion. They won't be back at the resort until the 6th. But that means Nate is unreachable, Mia finished. He's out at sea somewhere with no cell service while I'm about to have our baby. The contraction hit then, stronger than before, and Mia cried out, gripping the hospital bed rail. Ellie held her other hand, murmuring encouragement as Mia breathed through the pain. When it passed, Mia lay back against the pillows, tears streaming down her face. He promised, she whispered. He promised he'd keep his phone on, that he'd come back if anything happened. Ellie's face hardened. Well, he's not here, but I am, and I'm not going anywhere. As the nurse came in to move her to the delivery room, Mia felt a strange calm settle over her, like the eye of a storm. Nate had made his choice. His father, his family, his precious trip. Now she would make hers. Can you get my overnight bag from my car? She asked Ellie. And call my mother. Tell her what's happening. In the delivery room, as the contractions intensified and the hours crawled by, Mia focused on the task at hand, bringing her child safely into the world. She tried Nate's phone periodically, leaving increasingly desperate voicemails. But as evening turned to night and her labor progressed, she began to accept the reality. She would do this alone. Her mother booked the first flight from Seattle but wouldn't arrive until morning. Ellie stayed by her side, a steady presence, feeding her ice chips, holding her hand through contractions, advocating fiercely when the night shift nurse seemed dismissive of Mia's pain. At 3:17 a.m., after 18 hours of labor, Mia delivered a perfect baby girl, 7 pounds, 2 ounces, with a tuft of dark hair and her father's blue eyes. "She's beautiful," Ellie whispered, tears in her eyes as the nurse placed the swaddled infant in Mia's arms. Mia gazed down at her daughter, overwhelmed by a love so fierce and protective it took her breath away. "Hello, Lily," she murmured, the name she and Nate had chosen together if the baby was a girl. "I'm your mom." As dawn broke and the world outside the hospital window began to stir, Mia's phone finally rang. Nate's name flashed on the screen. "Mia?" His voice was frantic. "I just got your messages. All of them. I'm so sorry. We were out of cell range on this stupid boat. Are you okay? Is the baby—" "She's here," Mia said, her voice surprisingly steady. "Lily Catherine Delaney. Born at 3:17 this morning. 7 pounds, 2 ounces. 20 inches long? She?" Nate's voice broke. "We have a daughter?" "Yes. I'm coming home," he said immediately. "We're docking now. I'll get the first flight out." "Don't bother," Mia heard herself say. "We're fine. My mother will be here in a few hours." "Mia, please, Enjoy the rest of your trip, Nate," she said coldly. "Your father's retirement only happens once, right? Lily and I will be here when you get back." She hung up, a strange sense of power flowing through her. Then she looked down at her daughter, sleeping peacefully in her arms, unaware of the seismic shift that had just occurred in her mother's world. "It's just us for now," she whispered, pressing a kiss to Lily's forehead. "But we're going to be okay." Mia was discharged from the hospital the following evening, 48 hours after giving birth. Her mother, Susan, had arrived that morning, a whirlwind of efficiency and maternal concern, taking charge in a way that allowed Mia to focus solely on recovering and bonding with Lily. "The car seat is installed properly?" she asked for the third time as the nurse wheeled Mia toward the hospital exit, Lily bundled in her arms. "Yes, Mom," Mia assured her, too exhausted to be irritated by the repetition. "Nate and I installed it weeks ago." At the mention of Nate's name, Susan's lips thinned, but she said nothing. She had been remarkably restrained in her comments about Mia's absent husband, limiting herself to a single, "I always thought." There was something off about that boy when she'd first arrived to find her daughter and new granddaughter alone, Ellie, met them at the hospital entrance with Mia's SUV, hugging Mia carefully before peering at the sleeping baby. "Still the most beautiful thing I've ever seen," she declared. Besides her mother, of course. Mia managed a smile, grateful beyond words for her friend's unwavering support. "Thank you for everything, Elle. I couldn't have done this without you." "Yes, you could have," Ellie said firmly. "But I'm glad you didn't have to." The drive home was surreal, the familiar streets passing by as Mia sat in the back seat beside Lily's car seat, unable to take her eyes off her daughter's perfect face. Her phone buzzed periodically with texts from Nate, updates on his journey home. He had managed to get a flight out of Cabo that would arrive late tomorrow evening. At home, Susan took charge, directing Ellie to bring in the bags while she helped Mia upstairs. The nursery, which had been meticulously prepared for weeks, was now transformed from an expectant space to a lived-in one, with the addition of the flowers and balloons Ellie had arranged to have delivered. "You should rest," Susan insisted, helping Mia into bed. "I'll bring Lily to you when she needs to be fed, but otherwise try to sleep." Too exhausted to argue, Mia nodded, sinking into the pillows. She was asleep almost instantly, her body finally surrendering to the physical and emotional toll of the past 2 days. She woke to the sound of Lily's hungry cries and Susan's gentle voice. "Someone's ready for dinner," her mother said, placing the swaddled baby in Mia's arms. Do you need help getting set up? Mia shook her head, already adjusting her position and nightgown to nurse. As Lily latched on and began to feed, Mia felt a rush of tenderness so overwhelming it brought tears to her eyes. It hits you like that, Susan said softly, noticing her daughter's emotion. That love, nothing prepares you for it, Mia nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. I'll go make some tea, Susan said, patting Mia's foot through the blanket before leaving the room. Alone with her daughter, Mia allowed the tears to fall freely. They were tears of joy, of wonder at the miracle in her arms, but also tears of grief for the experience she had been robbed of, the shared moment of becoming parents, the look on Nate's face when he first saw his child, the feeling of his hand in hers as they faced the challenge of labor together. Her phone lit up on the nightstand. Nate again, boarding now. We'll be home around 8 p.m. tomorrow. I love you both so much. Can't wait to meet our daughter. Mia didn't respond. She had nothing left to say to him through text messages or phone calls. Whatever happened next between them would happen face to face. The next day passed in a blur of feedings, diaper changes, short naps, and visits from well-wishers. Ellie came by with lunch, staying long enough to give Susan a break and Mia a chance to shower. Mia's colleagues from the architectural firm where she worked sent a massive basket of baby essentials and prepared meals. Even Mrs. Rivera from next door stopped by with a hand-knitted blanket and advice that Mia was too polite to decline. Through it all, Mia moved as if in a dream, going through the motions of new motherhood while her mind raced with questions about the future. What would she say to Nate when he arrived? Could their marriage survive this betrayal? Did she even want it to? As evening approached, she felt herself growing increasingly tense, her body coiled like a spring. Susan noticed, of course. I can be here when he arrives, she offered as she helped Mia fold the mountain of baby laundry that had somehow accumulated in just 2 days. Or I can take Lily for a walk, give you some privacy. Mia considered, then shook her head. I need to do this myself, Mom, but thank you. At precisely 7:42 p.m., the sound of a key in the front door made Mia freeze. She was in the nursery, rocking Lily, who had just fallen asleep after a feeding. Mia? Nate's voice called from below, followed by the thud of his luggage hitting the floor. Up here, she responded, her voice steadier than she felt. She heard his footsteps on the stairs. Quick and eager, then he was in the doorway of the nursery. His face flushed, hair disheveled from travel. He looked exactly the same as when he'd left, and yet to Mia it felt like looking at a stranger. Oh my God, he breathed, his eyes fixed on the bundle in her arms. Is that your daughter? Mia confirmed, rising carefully from the rocking chair. Would you like to hold her? Nate nodded, his eyes filling with tears as he stepped forward. Mia placed Lily gently in his arms, showing him how to support her head. She's perfect, he whispered, gazing down at the sleeping infant. She looks like you. She has your eyes, Mia said. When she's awake. They stood in silence for a moment, the only sound Lily's soft breathing and the distant hum of the city beyond their windows. Then Nate looked up, his face contorted with emotion. Mia, I'm so sorry, he began. I should have been here. I never should have gone on that trip. When I think about what you went through alone— Not alone, Mia corrected him. Ellie was with me, and my mother came as soon as she could. But I should have been the one, he insisted. I'm her father. I'm your husband, are you? Mia asked quietly. Because from where I'm standing, you're Richard and Eleanor's son first. Husband and father second, maybe even third or fourth. Nate flinched as if she'd slapped him. That's not fair, isn't it? You chose them, Nate, when it mattered most. When you had to make a choice between being there for the birth of your child or attending your father's retirement party, you chose them. I didn't know you'd go into labor early. But you knew it was a possibility, Mia countered, her voice rising slightly. Lily stirred in Nate's arms, and Mia immediately modulated her tone. You knew, and you decided it was a risk worth taking. What does that say about your priorities? Nate looked down at his daughter, his expression anguished. I made a terrible mistake, he admitted. The worst mistake of my life. When I got your message and realized what was happening, Mia, I've never felt so helpless, so desperate. I was literally throwing up over the side of the boat. Good, Mia said coldly. I'm glad you suffered. I hope it was excruciating. Because what I went through? She gestured to her body, still swollen and bruised from childbirth. This was excruciating. Pushing a human being out of my body without the one person who promised to stand by me through everything. That was excruciating. Nate's tears fell freely now. I know, he whispered. I know, and I will spend the rest of my life trying to make it up to you both. Please, Mia, tell me it's not too late. Tell me I haven't lost you. Mia stared at him. This man she had loved for 6 years, the father of her child, the person she had planned to spend her life with. She thought about the promises they had made to each other, the dreams they had shared. And she thought about the moment when she had realized, with absolute clarity, that she was not his priority. Put Lily in her crib, she said finally. We need to talk, and I don't want to wake her. Nate carefully placed the baby in her crib, his hands trembling slightly as he tucked the blanket around her. Then he followed Mia to their bedroom across the hall. Mia sat on the edge of the bed, suddenly aware of how exhausted she still was, how fragile her postpartum body felt. Nate remained standing, as if unsure of his right to share the space. I want to forgive you, Mia began, her voice low but firm. For Lily's sake, if nothing else. She deserves to grow up with both parents, with a father who loves her. Hope flickered across Nate's face. But I need you to understand something, Mia continued. Something fundamental has changed between us. The trust I had in you, the belief that you would be there when I needed you most, that's gone. And I'm not sure I can get it back. Tell me what to do, Nate pleaded. Anything. I'll do anything. Mia looked at him steadily. I need you to choose us, Nate. Not just in words, but in actions. I need to know that Lily and I come first, before your parents, before your job at the family firm, before everything. Nate nodded eagerly. Of course you do. You both do. No, Mia said sharply. Don't just say it, prove it. Because right now your track record says otherwise. How? Tell me how to prove it, and I will. Mia had thought about this during the long hours of labor and the sleepless nights since. She knew what she needed, what would show her that Nate was truly committed to their family above all else. Leave the firm, she said. Nate stared at her, uncomprehending. What? You heard me. Leave your father's law firm. Get a job at another practice or start your own. Something that's yours, not his, but I've worked there since law school, Nate stammered. It's my career, my future. The plan was always for me to take over when Dad retires. And there it is, Mia said softly. Your father's plan for your life. Not ours, Nate. His. It's not that simple. It is that simple, Mia interrupted. Your father has controlled every aspect of your life for as long as I've known you. Where we live, how we spend holidays, even our wedding was more about what Eleanor wanted than what I did. And now it's affected our daughter. I won't let that continue. Nate ran a hand through his hair, his expression a mixture of confusion and distress. You're asking me to walk away from everything I've worked for? No, Mia corrected him. I'm asking you to walk toward something better. A life where you make your own choices, where our family, the one we created together, comes first. And if I don't? Nate asked, his voice barely audible. Mia took a deep breath. Then I don't see how we move forward together. I won't raise Lily in a home where she always feels second best to her grandparents. I won't live as an afterthought in my own marriage. The silence that followed was deafening. Nate stood frozen, his face pale, as the full weight of Mia's ultimatum sank in. You'd leave me? He finally asked. Take our daughter? I don't want to, Mia admitted, feeling tears threaten again. God, Nate, that's the last thing I want. I love you. Despite everything, I still love you. But loving someone isn't always enough, is it? Not if the fundamental values don't align. From across the hall came the sound of Lily stirring, a soft whimper that would soon turn into a full-fledged cry. Mia rose, her body protesting the movement. "She needs to be fed," she said. "You should get some sleep. You look exhausted." "Mia, wait." Nate caught her hand as she passed him. I need time to think about this. It's a massive decision." Mia gently extracted her hand from his. "Yes, it is. Just like the decision to go on that trip was massive. Just like the decision to have a baby was massive. Life is full of massive decisions, Nate. The question is, who are you making them for?" She left him standing there, moved by instinct toward her daughter's cries, toward the one certainty in her rapidly shifting world. Her love for Lily, and her determination to give her daughter the life she deserved, with or without Nate by her side. Resolution 3 months later. The August heat shimmered above the pavement as Mia pushed Lily's stroller toward the cafe where Ellie was waiting. The past 3 months had been a whirlwind of adjustments. To motherhood, to her new circumstances, to the person she was becoming in the wake of the most significant changes of her life. "There's my favorite girl," Ellie called as Mia approached, rising to peek into the stroller. "Both of my favorite girls, actually." Mia smiled, feeling the expression come more naturally now than it had in those first difficult weeks. "She just ate, so you've got about a 2-hour window before the beast awakens." They settled at a table in the shade, Lily sleeping peacefully in her stroller beside them. Ellie studied Mia's face. "You look good," she said. "Rested, even." "Is that possible with a 3-month-old?" "My mother would say it's not," Mia laughed. "But she's sleeping better now. 5 hours straight last night." "Hallelujah," Ellie said, raising her iced coffee in a toast. "And how are things otherwise? Have you heard from the lawyer?" Mia nodded, stirring her own drink absently. "The papers are all drawn up. Just waiting on signatures now. And Nate? How's he doing with all this?" Mia's mind flashed back to that night 3 months ago, the night Nate had returned to find his daughter already born and his marriage on the brink of collapse. The days that followed had been a roller coaster of emotions. Nate's initial determination to prove himself, followed by the gradual realization that he couldn't bring himself to leave his father's firm, to step out of the shadow that had defined his entire life. "He's adjusting," Mia said carefully. "The custody arrangement seems to be working so far. He has her 2 evenings a week and every other weekend." "And he's still at the firm?" "Senior partner now, actually. Richard promoted him last month." Ellie's expression darkened. "Of course he did. Keep the golden boy happy." "It's not that simple, Elle," Mia sighed. "Nate is a good father. He loves Lily, he just couldn't choose us over his family legacy. And maybe that's who he's always been. I just couldn't see it before." "Or you didn't want to see it," Ellie suggested gently. "Maybe," Mia conceded. "But either way, we're here now." "And where exactly is here?" Ellie asked. "Beyond the practical arrangements, how are you really feeling about everything?" Mia considered the question, looking down at her sleeping daughter, at the delicate curve of her cheek and the dark lashes against her skin. Lily had been her anchor in the storm of the past 3 months, the one constant in a world that had shifted irrevocably. "Honestly, I feel stronger than I ever thought possible," she said finally. "That night in the hospital, when I realized Nate wasn't coming, something changed in me. It was like I understood for the first time that I could do this on my own if I had to, that I was enough for her." "You are more than enough," Ellie assured her. "But you're not on your own, you know. You have me, your mom, your whole support system." "I know," Mia smiled, "and I'm grateful for that every day. But there's something powerful in knowing that, at the core, I can stand on my own feet, make my own choices, build the life I want for Lily and me." She thought about the changes of the past months, the decision to sell the house she and Nate had shared, the apartment she'd found closer to her office, the conversations with her boss about returning to work part-time in the fall, small steps toward independence, toward a future that looked nothing like the one she'd envisioned when she married Nate, but that held its own promise and possibility. "And what about you?" Ellie asked. "Not just as Lily's mom, but as Mia. What do you want for yourself?" The question caught Mia off guard. For so long, Her identity had been wrapped up in her relationships, Nate's wife, Lily's mother. The idea of wanting something purely for herself felt almost foreign. She began, then stopped, realizing she wasn't entirely sure. I want to be happy. To find joy again, not just in Lily, but in my work, in life. I want to remember who I was before all of this, but also discover who I can become now. Ellie reached across the table to squeeze her hand. That sounds like a pretty good start. Lily stirred in her stroller, making the soft, snuffling sounds that usually preceded waking. Mia automatically reached to adjust her blanket, her body responding to her daughter's needs without conscious thought. She looks more like him every day, she murmured. A bittersweet observation, but she has your spirit, Ellie said. I can see it already. That determination, that strength. She's going to be a force to be reckoned with, just like her mother. Mia smiled at that, the pride she felt in her daughter overwhelming any lingering sadness. Whatever had happened between her and Nate, Lily was the one pure thing to come from their union, the one decision she would never regret. As they finished their coffees and prepared to leave, Mia's phone buzzed with a text. Nate, Dad's retirement party this weekend. Would like to bring Lily to meet the extended family. Okay with you? A year ago, such a request would have been a command, an expectation. Now it was a question, one she had the power to answer as she saw fit, as long as you have her back by 7 for bedtime. She gets cranky if her routine is disrupted. The response came quickly. Of course. Thank you. 2 simple words that represented how far they had come, how much had changed. Not just for Nate, but for her as well. As they walked back toward Mia's apartment, Lily now awake and babbling happily in her stroller, Ellie asked, Do you ever regret it? The ultimatum, the separation, any of it? Mia looked up at the clear blue sky, feeling the warmth of the sun on her face, the weight of her daughter's stroller in her hands, the steady beat of her own heart, stronger now, more certain of its rhythm. No, she said simply. I regret that it had to happen that way, that Nate couldn't be the partner I needed. But I don't regret standing up for myself, for Lily. I don't regret demanding more than being someone's afterthought. She thought about the night she'd given birth, the moment she'd held Lily for the first time and felt that fierce, protective love wash over her. How in that moment she'd known that nothing would ever be the same, not her body, not her heart, not her life. Someone once told me that becoming a mother changes you fundamentally, she said. I didn't really understand what that meant until Lily was born. But it's true. It's like your priorities crystallize. Suddenly, all the things you were willing to tolerate before become unacceptable. Like a husband who goes on vacation while you're in labor, Ellie suggested wryly. Mia laughed, the sound lighter than it had been in months. Exactly like that. They reached Mia's building, pausing in the shade of the entrance. Lily was fully awake now, her blue eyes, so like Nate's, taking in the world with curious intensity. She's going to ask about it someday, Mia said softly. Why her father wasn't there when she was born. And what will you tell her? Ellie asked. Mia considered this, looking down at her daughter's trusting face. I'll tell her the truth, she decided. That her father made a mistake, as all humans do. That he loves her very much, even though he and I couldn't stay together. That sometimes, the most important lessons in life come from our biggest failures. And what about the lesson for you? Ellie pressed. What did you learn from all of this? Mia thought about the woman she had been a year ago, eager to please, willing to compromise herself for Nate's approval, for his family's acceptance. And she thought about the woman she was becoming now, stronger, more certain of her worth, unwilling to settle for less than she deserved. I learned that love isn't enough if it doesn't come with respect, she said finally. That sometimes the hardest choice is the one that saves you. And that even in your darkest moment, when you feel most alone, you can find a strength you never knew you had. She looked up at her friend, at the woman who had stood beside her through the most difficult days of her life, and smiled. I learned that I'm going to be okay, she said. We both are. As if in agreement, Lily let out a happy gurgle, reaching toward her mother with perfect trust. Mia lifted her from the stroller, holding her close, breathing in the sweet baby scent that still made her heart contract with love. This wasn't the life she had planned. Not the family she had envisioned. But as she stood there, her daughter warm against her chest, the future stretching out before them, uncertain but full of possibility, Mia knew one thing with absolute certainty. It was the life she had chosen, on her own terms. And for that, she would never apologize.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.